lost Dean.
He'll show up. I know his jokes. Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Vito x DINO podcast. I'm starting to like that intro more and more every week. My name is Vito Delsante, and his name is Dean Haspiel.
Oh, hey, everyone. I'm Dean Haspiel.
Way to go. You unwhited yourself. There you go. He got a tan, and his mom said he looked like a movie star. Look at him now.
Who else we got on the show here?
What?
Who else we got on this show?
We have this is episode 3 of our special sessions with Kickstarter backers. And over the past 2 weeks, we've had 2 Kickstarter backers for Antimatter. And again, we thank everyone for backing Antimatter. A couple of weeks, we'll start getting into the Stray backers. But right now, we have George, Mr. George.
Hello, George, Mr. George. How you doing,
everybody? How are we doing?
Good. Actually, before we get into who George is, I keep forgetting that one of the reasons why we do this is because they backed Antimatter, right? So I want to know what George thought of Antimatter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. I will admit it is something that I think it took me 2 reads to fully appreciate it. The first time I read through it, I definitely liked it. And Dean, I think I texted you afterwards. I was just like, wow, it was wild. It was wild. And going through it the second time, I think what I really appreciated, and I don't know if I kind of put like 2 and 2 together upon my first read was, I know you assisted Howard Chaykin for a while, Bill Sienkiewicz and them. And I know that he's been a big influence on your work. And I feel like when I look at your drawings, I can see, sometimes in your faces and your hands, the Howard Chaykin influence. And I think it's something that in this piece, I saw his writing, or that was my opinion, kind of influence in particular the COVID cop section of the book, in as much as, and I think he's spoken about this in interviews, and I read his Substack as well, but he has obviously a lot of enthusiasm and love for the art form, and I feel like he's somebody who's really trying to elevate it, and his writing sometimes is very like, I'm hitting the ground running. This is what's going on.
Well, you got to catch up with him. He's never stopping for you.
Exactly.
And he famously has contempt for most of his audience, by the way. Because he'll always be known for the guy who drew the Star Wars comic book, nothing else, right? And meanwhile, he did American Flag.
Great things.
No, he's done a ton of things, and yes, that's the bane of his existence, is Star Wars, which was just a gig at a time for a movie that nobody knew was going to blow up. Right. So, he's drawing a funny looking dog, a tall dog, some blonde twerp, with a sword, this weird looking, it's not Darkseid, it's Darth Vader, kind of a thing. And and then meanwhile, he's like this brilliant writer who it's funny, like if I had any criticism of Howard's work, it's not his drawing, it's not his formula of how he shows a story, which does start to become a little bit of a formula with his insets and the way he stages a scene, an office scene, Right. But I do think that sometimes he's a little too ahead of his audience. Like he needs to be better at inviting his audience and not testing his audience. It's almost like he's testing them, And I think that he would feel insulted that you saw any kind of like
okay, well, don't tell him.
in the COVID cop thing, because I think he would think I'm a fucking idiot when it comes to because if anything, not as a writer and a person, but if anything, I'm taking the piss out of a lot of stuff with COVID cop, right? As I do some of my other characters, and I'm definitely kind of like straddling kind of like certain planes when it comes to COVID cop. And if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about, kind of a thing. I'm not gonna like over explain it, even though it is hyperbolic and bombastic, in some ways, right? But like he would have Howard would it's really interesting. There are 2 people I would love to see their take on COVID cop. One is Howard Chaykin, because of his relationship with America,
Yeah.
and being a Jew and all this stuff. The other person I'd love to see their version is Frank Miller.
Oh, it'd be glorious.
Okay, I'll do this right now. One of the things I wrote down here was next level. You and I have a relationship, George, with the term level, right?
I mean, Frank Miller has achieved nirvana. I mean, he's gone to the top of the mountain at least twice.
Yes.
He's both a line and a shape artist. It's unbelievable. Yeah.
It is unbelievable. And so like people will be tearing him a new asshole whenever he draws another cover or variant or something. And half the time you and I are like, yo, did you see what he just did?
Yeah, it's great.
How did he get there? You know, kind of a thing.
I love it.
And it's because we're both open, you know, to the fact that he's an older artist and you really reduce maybe your style down into the crux of what it is you've been doing all these years, you know?
That's kind of what we were saying with John Romita Jr. a couple of weeks ago.
But even
Absolutely.
he, like, I mean, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go for it. Go, please.
No, and I think I showed it to you. I got a John Romita Jr. I bought a Black Panther page that Klaus Janson inked of his, and it's just, you know, I mean, you can tell that, you know, John Romita, I mean, he's an astonishing artist, and you can tell that there is an appreciation of Frank Miller's work in his work, and I think
Jack Kirby, big time, and
right,
his father, you know, obviously John Romita Sr.
Yeah, and you know, when Klaus Janson inks him, I think he's just able to pull out these things that, and this is just my personal opinion, that maybe John Romita Jr.'s other inkers aren't pulling out of there. And I think it's, you know, Klaus Janson kind of, you know, go back in time to the, you know, when he was a Frank Miller collaborator and really just, you know, kind of, you know, elevate these kind of, you know, small grace notes to these really grand.
I mean, in a way, Klaus Janson, if I think about it, if the timing works out, probably gave Bill Sienkiewicz permission to do what he started to do in Moon Knight, and then.
Well, he inked him for a while, right? Like for an issue.
I don't remember if Janson inked Sienkiewicz.
Okay.
But I don't know if that's true. But when he was doing Moon Knight, there was an issue called like Hit It, which is like about jazz or something. And
yeah.
It like literally there you watching him veer right there, Bill Sienkiewicz, right? And he's going into a more like splatter, looser inking, jazzier type of art style, right? With experimental. And I feel like we didn't know it then, but that's what Klaus was doing, inking. Well, ultimately when he was now finishing Frank Miller's layouts on Daredevil, and I believe he even started coloring as well because he knew
he did
what he was doing. And then Joe Rosen, the plainest letterer of all time, the most invisible letterer you've ever seen, was perfect for that series. I've talked to Klaus about what he did on Daredevil, and he's been very grateful of me acknowledging it. But that works because of Klaus Janson. I mean, the storytelling is there, and you know, Frank is rocking his Will Eisner as best he can, you know. And it's like Hill Street Blues meets Will Eisner, you know, basically.
It's so crazy that you guys are bringing this stuff up because I never really, I mean, when you approach a page as an artist, I think you're taking in a lot of different things visually. And as a reader, it's not so apparent, especially upon first glance. You know, as a reader, you know, like I was talking about Chris Claremont today with Paul Story, another writer, fantastic writer, I think, totally underrated. And we were talking about Claremont in context with John Byrne's Elsewhere, and why I don't feel like I want to read it. You know, and
just explain to the listeners.
Yeah. So to back up just a second. John Byrne was doing this basically a fan comic, although I'm sure he would call it something different, of what his X-Men would have been had he not left the book somewhere in 1981 or 82 or something like that. And he was showing the pages online, black and white, I think mostly pencils. I don't even think they were inked at the time. And it was getting traction in the fan community. And, you know, then Marvel, you know, kind of came out and said, well, we're not going to publish anything like that because it doesn't fit into our plans, et cetera, et cetera. Years later, I would say about 2 to 3 years later, Abrams started an imprint called Abrams Comic Arts, I believe. Is that what it's called, Dean? I can't remember.
Yeah, Comic Arts. Yep.
And they offered to publish this through Abrams. Chris Ryall, a good friend of both of ours, offered to edit, but I don't think he had to edit much because it was already done. And they put it together and they put it out, I want to say last month. And so
it needed to be it got inked and whatever, like finished, right? But
yeah.
I will say this, from what I saw of the pencils, kind of like Jack Kirby's Street Code, I almost wish they had just published the pencils with the lettering, and you don't need to ink it or color it. I think that's just a more interesting document, like an archival thing,
Well,
and not to step on your toes.
Like 5 years.
What?
I said, give Scott Dunbier like 5 years.
There you go. And I think it's supposed to be 3 volumes, right?
Yes.
But I would actually say when you were talking about like the fact that it was kind of like fan fiction, even though he had worked on the X-Men previous to those very issues, then he then continued the way he thought the story should go, right? Because he and the writer Chris Claremont kind of had a famous breakup, as it were, But I would say John Byrne is the quintessential entitled fan. He literally is entitled to do that comic.
That's funny.
But you said something, and I saw this online where I think people were saying, no, I'm good, I'm not going to read this comic, I'm not interested.
And the reason why, like Ed Catto, who's a good friend of both of ours as well, had said, I hate, I'm not excluding George by saying he's a good friend of ours. I just don't know if George knows these people, but I know that Dean does, and so But Ed had said, I had posted, I don't know if it's, I'm ever going to buy it, but is it any good? Just wondering, And 1 or 2 people actually gave an opinion, but most people were kind of thinking, it's very interesting that Vito said this. I don't know why he's not going to buy it. And so I had said, other than his, prickish behavior at conventions, just being a real piece of shit, to rubber stamping his signature on second printings because they don't, deserve a first printing signature. Like, just, I don't get the guy, Then you have some racist stuff that had come up like in the early 2000s that I was almost unfortunately privy to see like firsthand. Just little notes on the back of someone's art, like about the race of a character, whatever. What had really, kind of like, and what's weird is like, as we've been doing this show, now 83 episodes deep, I had thought, my relationship to certain artists, certain writers has changed over the course of the year and change that we've been doing the show, because now I'm looking at things differently, kind of like what I was saying about you guys talking about the influences and stuff that, you can see in the art. And I just said that, like, I don't know that I'm going to pick it up because he came out a couple of weeks ago, like a couple of weeks before the book came out, actually, and said Stan never meant this to be an allegory for.
Oh yeah, I saw that. It was a New York Times interview or something like that.
Yeah, I was like,
well, wait, no, but say that out loud because you stepped on each other's toes, and I haven't thought about that. So Vito, you said that John Byrne said that Stan never meant the X-Men to be an allegory.
Lee, by the way, yes.
Sorry, Stan Lee. Sorry. Go ahead. Finish that sentence.
Never meant for the X-Men to be an allegory for the civil rights movement.
Right.
The argument being that Stan didn't see Professor Xavier as Martin Luther King, nor did he see Magneto as Malcolm X.
Right.
And I distinctly remember Stan saying in a letters column, I would say in the 70s, but I could be wrong, like in terms of time, but I'll get to my retraction in a second. That indeed these were supposed to be, like the X-Men were stand-ins for the marginalized in society, blacks, Hispanics, gay, whatever, like whatever at the time was.
I gotta let these dogs in. Hold on.
but I'll say this, Vito. I think again, just based on this little bit of like quibble of information, like I don't think that Stan Lee and Jack Kirby originally thought that this was that.
This is where my retraction comes in.
Right.
According to what I like, really quick internet research, Stan did say that in a letters column, but it was many years after Chris Claremont started implementing it into the work.
That's right.
So
that's right.
If that's Chris Claremont's intention as a writer while he's working with John Byrne, I don't see why John Byrne would go and say, well, that's not what they were intended to be.
And thank God for Roy Thomas for deciding that the X-Men needed a Canadian.
Yeah, well, I mean, Roy Thomas is the one that decided that I'm sorry, not Roy Thomas, Len Wein decided that they needed an international cast because they were now starting to spread out their distribution across the world. And so he wanted it to be indicative of, where the book was going. That's why you see, characters like Wolverine, like Storm, like Sabra from Israel, like Sunfire from Japan. You start seeing these guys coming out in Giant Size X-Men #1 Beyond. And that's where Chris Claremont comes in and starting to make this stuff. So my thing is that like John, is kind of gatekeeping revisionism, like it's very weird, that he would go out and say that. So I was just like, I don't know that I want to, be privy or not support it or anything like that.
I hear you.
It's my money anyway, but.
No, I get it. And I hear you. But at the same time, curiosity killed the cat, right? So I am curious, but I think the curiosity would be better served had I went and reread those Claremont Byrne issues and then read the next issue by John Byrne. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, then I feel like, oh, I'm back on track, and it would be fascinating to kind of read all those comics again, because I haven't in a long time, and they were so important at, growing up.
But going back to what I was saying about you guys like seeing Klaus and like in the work and stuff, and George, you made me think about antimatter in a totally different way today. And it was that when you look at Dean's background as an artist, where he started and everything, it's weird because COVID Cop is kind of an American flag. It's kind of your American flag.
I can see it.
Billy Dogma, at least in antimatter, specifically, but not throughout the. I contend Billy Dogma is more influenced by Jack Kerouac and the beat poets of the '60s than it is by anything Kirby, Lee, and anybody else ever did. But you could make the argument that the representation of Billy Dogma and Jane Legit in antimatter is Black Kiss. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm like, and I'm actually getting goosebumps. I'm like, oh wow, like I really am.
If Dan Parent,
that's amazing.
If Dan Parent did Black Kiss, right?
Dan Parent, the Archie Comics longtime artist, just for
right.
Anyone doesn't know who that is.
Yeah.
And I guess Red Hook would be more on the Walter side of it than anything, but.
Maybe I
don't think it's a conscious thing though. I think that like how George is pointing it out, I think George was pointing out the more obvious kind of storytelling techniques or like dialogue even that Howard used in a lot of his work. United States of Hysteria being most recent.
The divided states of hysteria.
Divided, thank you.
Which is the thing that kind of almost broke him.
Right.
He got a lot of hate for that, and it's undeserved because they didn't read the fucking comic book.
And it's crazy that he went to Hey Kids Comics right after that, which was, I wouldn't say a celebration of comics, but it is a celebration of comics when you think about it.
Yeah, I think I got about halfway through before I got distracted by something else. But I was really appreciating it. I mean, and I also, he's kind of doing these like, this is this cartoonist, but there's some of that in there. It's like nobody is like a straight like representation of like, guilty.
That was a difficult read, and there were 3 volumes of it, and it's to me it was like drawn like it was a play. I feel like it was written and drawn like a play. Which is, I like that. I write plays, right? And I don't mind that. And like, Reservoir Dogs by Tarantino is a play. Sure. Hateful Eight is a play. Like, so I'm not against that. I just felt like I was losing track on each of the characters, and I need to kind of reread it.
Yeah, you kind of had to go back and forth. And I don't know it. I think
it was like his Game of Thrones, right? In a way, like there's so many characters.
Yeah,
and so many things happening. But I want to segue here actually, because you said Red Hook.
Sure.
And Red Hook, I created the Red Hook in his original name was the Rascal. Wasn't it? Well, so I went to Yato in 2012.
Yeah.
And I wrote a 6-page Red Hook script. Okay. And then a few months later, I went to ACA, the Atlantic Center for the Arts, to be like a master artist, mentor of other cartoonists. And that's where I drew this Red Hook story. Okay. And that's where I met George, Mr. George. So can you talk a little bit about ACA and what that was for you and how you found out about it? And then actually you left early because you had a gig, right? So talk a little bit about that experience, because I want to hear your point of view, and I'm going to heat up a bagel while you're talking.
No, you're good. Yeah, so they had run it in, it was like 2010. And I think it was Craig Thompson, a Russian woman whose name I'm not recalling, and Paul Pope. And at the time, I was like 22. I was about to graduate from college, and I really had a very, very deep appreciation for Paul Pope's work. And I applied to study with him. And I got waitlisted. So basically, I don't remember what the number of people they took was, but I was not in that premier batch. So in any case, everybody who wanted to study with him was able to study. And I was like, well, maybe there'll be another opportunity. And yeah, I think it just came through my email. And Dean, I saw your name, and it was familiar to me, and I couldn't quite place why. But then I went and I looked you up, and I was like, oh. You
went to all the local bathrooms, right? And you're like, oh, there's his name, and it's with a phone number.
Right. I was like, what's his number? What's the area code? No, it was, so it's actually kind of funny.
It's crazy because you were looking for a good time.
But Dean gave me so much wisdom and support. It was magnificent. But no, it was, so Dean, the first time I ever saw your work, I was like 15, and your comic was at the front of my comic shop as like the recommended comic of the week. And it was the Gabe Soria Batman, Bruce Timm style, whatever.
Yep. Batman Adventures, I think it was.
Batman Adventures, right. So
in fact, you've been reading Vito's backup in that.
I was going to say somebody else was in that book too.
Yeah, Gabe Soria wrote the lead, and Vito wrote the backup.
That was my first published work.
Well, it was funny because and at this point, I think I own like 5 Rick Burchett, Terry Beatty pages. Terry Beatty was a college professor of mine, so I bought a couple from him directly. But Rick Burchett, growing up, I didn't really read a lot of comics unless it was tied into whatever the Bruce Timm Batman was. So I remember when I got to the comic shop, I was like, oh, like they're giving this book the shine or whatever. And I didn't recognize your artwork. And I remember going through it, and I was like, wait a minute, like this isn't Rick Burchett. Like what? And
sorry.
No, it's because when I did end up reading it, I was like, wow, like this is kind of great, because you basically had a page to do like each villain,
Yeah.
Like a splash page, whatever. So I guess, as a, fan of that work, I was a little maybe envious of the assignment, anyway. So I saw your name, and I was like, oh, okay. Like, and I remember there was some question that I had about the submission specifics. So I found you on Facebook, and I was like, I don't know if it's out of bounds for me to like message Dean, but I did, and very kindly you responded, and you gave me the clarification I needed. And I submitted my application, and you chose for me to come down there, and it really it is no hyperbole. I would not have the career that I have today had I not had that experience. It is truly truth. You know, it was really a very, very important part of my artistic development. I think it gave me some confidence that I probably didn't have necessarily at the time. And, you know, I really have been incredibly appreciative of your friendship and the way that you've supported me over the years. It made, yeah, it really made a very, 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 it made a big difference in my life. It was such a nice thing. So yeah, you know, we were down there for 3 weeks, and I did have to leave early because I was excruciatingly poor at the time, and I had an opportunity to make $8,000, and
I told you had to go. Like,
yeah, you know,
of course.
like,
But George, I appreciate what you said about me, and
sure.
and I'll take it. But
Yeah.
But you were already fully developed and super talented.
Well, that's
Like,
very kind. I appreciate
it was just about challenging you and just maybe looking at things a little bit differently here and there once in a while.
Yeah.
And you know, we actually had a really good crew.
We did.
In 2012.
It was, and that
You
made,
know.
you know, it was so cool to just, because, you know, I've been out of college a couple of years at that point, and to just, you know, reintegrate into a space with people who, you know, are down there to work creatively and more specifically on comics. It was awesome. It was such a nice thing. And I think it also, I remember, I'm sure, you know, Dean, I know you know who he is. Vito, I'm sure you, Alex Toth, the cartoonist, you know, he had a drawing method. I think he calls it alla prima. Other people call it automatic drawing, which is basically it's straight to ink. It's no pencil work, whatever. And I really, for whatever reason, I chose to challenge myself in that way down there, that I was going to do all these straight to ink drawings. And it, you know, it gave me a skill set, and I think it helped me kind of push, you know, some other things in my artwork. And it was just such a nice space to really be in, where, you know, I don't like, I'm not trying to be silly, but, you know, like a creative, like safe space, you know what I'm saying? Where it's just like, hey, like everybody's down there, they're trying to make this work. And, you know, we're just.
No judgments, no. And I tried to give you guys some challenges that you met.
Yeah,
like
we
I
had
think
that
you
script that you did. That
and you did it twice. I think you drew it twice.
I did do it twice.
I mean, 2 different versions of that script, you know, and that was a lot of fun. And no, man, you were hitting it out of the ballpark. And so, like, you to leave early was like, I was gonna miss you, and I wish you had stayed. But it was like, no, you're on it. You're in. You know, you got this kind of a thing. You know, and actually to bring it back to Toth, that's the Red Hook challenge for me when I created the Red Hook was I wanted to create a character that, based on the idea, like, what if Jack Kirby and Alex Toth created a character together? And that's what the Red Hook started off as. And of course, years later, I'd realize, oh, it's not the same thing, but they did do a cartoon show together. Was that the Thunder?
Thundar the Barbarian
or something
Yeah.
at the same time?
Wait, I think it was Thundar the Barbarian. Was
Oh,
Kirby and
okay,
Toth,
okay.
I think.
I don't know if Toth worked on that, but I know Kirby definitely did.
No, but there was one where they both worked on.
Hmm.
And actually, there's a not so great DC Comics Presents that stars Superman and the Challengers of the Unknown. That is a Kirby Toth, where Kirby drew some of the pages and Toth drew some of the pages.
Oh, I didn't know
of
that.
the same
I've never
story.
seen that.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. So, and then if you pick up one of the cartoon, I forget which one it is, there's an hour-long, I believe, Alex Toth documentary.
Oh yeah,
It's pretty heartbreaking. And and their kids talk about the meeting that he had once with Jack in California, where like Roz made them sandwiches. They talked for a few hours, and at the end of it, they were like, "Well, great to meet you," and they totally did not know what the hell they just said to each other at all. They could not understand each other's process about making comics.
I'm gonna add another comic to your list there, Dean. For X-Men number 12 from 1965. Layouts by Jack Kirby, pencils by Alex Toth.
Yeah, penciled it right.
And then inked by Vinnie Coletta.
Was that under a pseudonym? Was Toth under a pseudonym?
No,
It
I think
doesn't
I think he's credited. And
Are
it's
you
not
kidding
like
me?
his finest drawing hour, but it's interesting.
Oh my
There's,
God.
Yeah, yeah.
Are you kidding me? I had no idea.
let me see if I can
Yeah, that cover looks
enlarge my
the
screen.
juggernaut.
Yeah, I believe it might be
That's
in the first appearance of the
I had
Juggernaut.
no idea. But if it's Toth drawing over Kirby layouts, that's weird.
Yeah, I haven't looked at it in a long time. I remember it being kind of an odd looking book, or I was like, it just, well, and Vince Colletta gets a lot of, I do think Vince Colletta could do a really good job when he wanted to. There was a summer I was working for a cartoonist who was going to put together a Bob Oxner collection. So he had
Bob Oxner's awesome.
Yeah, who, talk about a lights out, cartoonist. I mean, really just so brilliant. Kevin Nowlin is apparently a big fan. But anyways, there was a Bob Oxner page that was inked by Vince Colletta. And he had, there's this panel of it's like Clark Kent like reclining in a chair and like Lois Lane is above him or something like that. And one of the most like brilliantly fluid brushstrokes I've ever seen to like drapery fold on, somebody's pant leg, Vince Colletta pull it off. And I was like, hey man. And, I don't think people are necessarily paying attention to drapery like that, but I did. And, I feel like, Vince Colletta, he's got to get a little bit of respect.
well, talk about that a little bit, which is how much comics were under your belt? I don't remember, before ACA, and what happened after ACA?
Sure. So I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Graphic Design. I was very indecisive at college. I think I changed my major 3 or 4 times, going back and forth between comics and graphic design. So I guess as much as somebody could double major, I kind of did. And I took it very seriously. I just, I graduated college and it was the winter. It was almost 2011. So, the market had, it was really, really bad shape. And I just, I kind of was like, well, I've spent 4.5 years at school. I have spent some of my own money, and my parents have spent money to put me here. So I got to, really, really kick it into gear. So I took it pretty seriously. I had 2 internships. I worked with a cartoonist, they are now Margot Pipoy. And then I worked at a studio in Portland that at the time was called Periscope and is now called Helioscope. It was like Jeff Parker and Steve Lieber and Ron Randall, and there were a whole bunch of people there. So I really, I've been very fortunate. I had a couple of opportunities, and I think that pushed me more towards ACA again, considering I had good experiences. And then afterwards, Dean, you referred me to Paul Kaminsky, who at the time was at Archie, and now he's in some position of impressive power over at DC. Does he do the Superman book?
Family editor, yeah.
Superman editor, yeah.
Yeah, so he gave me my first, I guess, mainstream comics job. The book was canceled before it was published, but he really, he was so kind. I remember, we had a phone call or an email exchange, and he was like, I can get you XYZ for pencils. I'm going to put really good inker on you. We have a colorist. And I can't imagine. And he was great because he let me do it. But, I sent him back an email and I was like, well, I want to ink myself and color myself. And he was like, okay.
What was the book? What was the
Sorry?
book? What was the comic?
It was the New Crusaders. They were relaunching like the old Archie heroes, and I did a Jaguar strip. And he was a magnificent editor. He sent me back a PDF with, on my pencils, like some good notes about having things be more dynamic or, kind of changing up some camera angles and all that. So, like I said, the book or the series was canceled before the story was actually published.
I believe it was published digitally because I had a had a similar thing with the Black Hood.
Oh
that I
man,
did
okay.
with Chris Cross and John Workman. Funny enough, we were
Oh
talking about
man, okay.
but yeah, I think it was because it was canceled as a backup feature
Sure.
for a book, and then they published them all as a trade paperback on digitally. Like either I know I have it through Comixology, but yeah.
You know what's funny? You know
I was going to
funny,
ask.
Drew? Oh.
What was that, Dean?
I was going to say something's funny about that note that Paul gave you, which I don't know if I remember, but that to make your maybe make the superhero pages more dynamic. Your style
Is
of
not
drawing a page, and I wish we could show people this, but it's not that at all. It's more elegant. It's more nuanced, right? And in a way, is it Don Heck? I think
oh sure, yeah.
Don Heck was like well known for drawing romance comics, but when he would do Iron Man, the scenes between Tony Stark and a woman were great. But when it came to him fighting villain of the week, it was a little underwhelming. You know what I'm saying? Because that wasn't his forte.
About Don Heck, he is now the most he's the most expensive page of comic art that's ever sold. He had an Iron Man page, went for like 3.3 million about a month ago. Which
wow.
Who knew? But yeah, I saw that pop up and I was like, good for Don Heck. No, and
was there like a particular character that's introduced on the page or something?
I think it's the first like Mark I Iron Man appearance. I'll send you a link when we get off of here.
Wow.
Well,
but yeah, actually, because you follow art, like you buy art, and you sometimes will send me like a Frank Quitely page or whatever, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, like.
Well, it's challenging for me to I mean, there's a story behind this, and I'm not trying to put people's business out there, so I'm gonna say an artist. An artist who I knew or I know, they had some success working during the 90s, and right before the bubble was about to burst, they, if I'm remembering correctly, got a royalty check for $34,000 from their editor, which, a royalty check, this is not page rate money. This is, back in the 90s, people were getting those kind of checks. And this artist, they were like, well, I'm probably not going to get one of these again. So, I should probably be smart with this money. So they bought a Brian Bolland Judge Dredd page, when Jack Kirby came back to Marvel, and was in the 70s, John Romita inked him on a Captain America, and they bought a Watchmen page. And many years later, when they were, when the person that they were with, they were looking to buy a condo, they sold the Watchmen page to put a down payment on the condo. If I'm remembering the story correctly.
Wow.
And when I worked for them, the Judge Dredd page was at 2:00, and the Kirby Captain America was at 9:00, in relationship to the drafting table that I was at. So, it's challenging. Math is not my strong suit. I really did go to art school to never take another math class again. I feel like I understand art better. And, in terms of trying to, both have something that I can appreciate and, enjoy on my walls, and also, be considerate of, I'd like to potentially retire, hopefully someday.
All right, and that's an interesting way to think about money, right? Is to invest in comic book art. And like, you're one of the only guys. It's funny, like when I've been in a studio of like 14 artists,
sure,
some of them will talk about the lines, the rendering, the this and that, and often I don't talk about that. I'm more concerned about the layouts, the composition. I almost don't care how it looks half the time, and sometimes you look at something and go, oh my God, like when I think about, oh God, Trevor Von Eden doing like that Superman annual or whatever with Batman, and you're like, what is happening? Something broke.
Wild
and
stuff,
it's incredible. or thriller, or you think about, oh God, what's his name? He did like a short Hulk story. That's
Tony Salmons.
Oh, Tony Salmon's Hulk, right? Like, come on. Like, then I'm noticing the art a little bit more for some reason, you know. But it is in conjunction with layouts and stuff. So, but you're one artist that will text me, and you're talking about the art, or you even do that with me. You'll be like, once in a while, I'll put something out there, and you'll notice a dry brush or something, and like that kind of sends you. And it's just so crazy to me to be able to have these conversations, because I don't have them in general. And Vito and I don't talk. Vito and I talk more about writing and storytelling than rendering. You know,
I mean, that's because I'm not as familiar with the techniques.
Right.
I'm trying to teach myself, but right now I have to take a break from it because I'm trying to get a book together. But
exactly.
But yeah, it's something that I would love to know better. You know, like that. I like I was saying before, like that fact that you could see, you know, like some kind of like Bill Sienkiewicz, Klaus Janson quality in.
I got a Bill Sienkiewicz inked John Muth.
Ooh.
It's and I mean, that's just one of the things that it's just like, can you imagine nowadays somebody went into Marvel and was like, hey, we want to let John Muth and Bill Sienkiewicz cook for a couple 3 issues. How do you feel? They're going to be like, who? They're like, you know, it's just,
who?
It's, yeah, they're going to, and I just, you know, they used to, I think DC, and again, I feel like I'm so checked out of mainstream I'm probably maybe not in a place to say
I'm half checked out myself, man, and I just paid a bill for J.E.U. Comics.
But you know what I'm saying? Like they used to, I feel like there used to be some more adventure, and I think DC maybe seems to be trying to take some more adventurous chances. But I mean
I think that's on the surface, yes.
Okay.
The absolute line of books is definitely like the Martian Manhunter book was one of the most audacious and most
Javier Rodriguez,
riskiest books to ever put out, and I think it nailed the landing.
Yep.
But for the most part, I think there's nothing like you were saying, like a John Muth and.
Well, he's like a fine artist. Bill Sienkiewicz is a fine artist, and there's a
Craig Russell doing with Eric Schanauer or something like that.
Right.
You know, I've been thinking about Eric Schanauer a lot lately because I watched The Odyssey. And
did you know he had an Ed Brubaker collaboration that Fantagraphics put out? I had no idea until
I remember that. I don't remember what the name of it is because I'm always confusing it with the Jason Lutz one. But yeah, like I don't think anybody thinks in terms of being risky anymore. I even in my own work, I don't think that I would love to take some risks. You know, like I think I'm afforded that opportunity because I'm not owned by a parent company. But the opposite side of that is I do want to sell the book. So how many risks can I take if I'm doing a superhero comic? The risks, you know, are probably in stuff like Pay the Devil. I know that I'm doing a little bit of a different take with Underboss, which is going to look more like Naoki Urasawa's
Pluto or whatever it is, and
Monster and stuff. It's going to look more like that. It's not done by a manga artist, but it has that quality to it.
Sure.
I mean, look no further than Marty Keene in terms of taking like weird risks and being experimental. I mean, I love Marty and I love his spirit, and I don't know if he can draw. Can he draw? I don't know what he's doing.
What metric are you using?
I think.
What's my metric? Like that's what I mean. Like if I applied the metrics growing up, confronting a Neil Adams.
I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
Or like a Michael Golden or an Arthur Adams. I can't draw at all. I don't know the first thing about drawing. Okay. So then you're going, well, I'm supposed to draw like these guys, or like, you know, the comics you're reading at the time, right? And then you see a weird thing like a Frank Miller hat. And Frank Miller is different enough because you realize all his art is storytelling.
Yeah,
all of it,
100%.
Every single one, you know? So there are people who render and draw really well and illustrate, let's say, really well. But Neil Adams was not the best storyteller.
I think a lot of people probably would say that,
but it's intimidating to see that art. So
craftsmanship's astonishing,
the beauty of like Amadi Keene is that it's unintimidating, that it really is just almost like you said, a la prima. You know,
And
like
it's also-
it is
So
almost.
you know who, and I don't feel like I know. I know he did that Spider-Man bootleg, right? Okay, yeah. So he kind of, oh man, is it Max Beckmann, the German painter? You know what
I
I'm
love
talking-
Max Beckman.
Oh yeah, lights
Love
out. They've got a piece. Oh man, there was this. It didn't really last, but there was this woman. We went out a few times, and we went to the Art Institute for one of our dates, and like you walked in the room, and it's just almost a floor to ceiling Max Beckman. This guy
Wow.
like on a staircase or something like that. I was just like,
It's funny you mentioned Mahdi and bootleg Spider-Man, but I also think in terms of commerciability, the work that Jim Mahfood is doing on his own, like Arachnid Enforcer,
sure.
things like that, Defective Comics, I don't think that that's a mainstream book, but it has a lot of mainstream qualities to it that make it appealing to a mainstream
And
audience.
energy, mainstream energy,
Like-
as does Mahdi.
Yes,
Like-
and I think that's what you're saying about, because you're right. Like if we were to apply the safety of trying to draw like a Michael Golden, or if you could call
Bob Layton, Bob Layton,
or like a Ron
John
Randall,
Buscema.
or who's your guy, Ron Wilson, like the good hands. You know what I mean? Like the guys that you can count on to deliver a book in 30 days. Those kind of guys. If we
Right.
and forget about like your Jim Lees or Walter Simonsons or any kind of superstar, just like the good hands. If we were to apply that like to you growing up, before you ever met Howard, before you ever met Walt, or any of the people in the studio, would you have continued to do what you do? How long would you have lasted before you were intimidated out of the industry? Do you know what I mean?
I think that's a really interesting question because, there's the whole calling and curse, right? Like it's a calling,
Yeah.
and there's a curse because you can't do anything else. It's a calling, you have to do it. So at that point in my life, at age 17 going on 18, was it a calling? Probably, but it hadn't become a curse yet. And would I have? Don't forget, I love film. I love movies. And so I think my way out of not being the best illustrator was that I understood pretty soon from that year at Upstart Studios and with Sienkiewicz that I was serving story. So I started realizing, oh shit, I got to think about how this is serving story, this artwork, right? So little by small, I was growing that sensibility, as it were. So then that's my kind of get out of free jail card, right? Is it may not be the best art. I mean, look, I'm looking at, did you tell me to get this?
Oh yeah, and it's the most glorious thing I've seen in years.
It's the most glorious thing. There is a panel in here that I think you sent me.
There's several. I literally, and again,
there's
I mean
tons,
in
there's
the kindest way. That's the
Can I just jump in and say how much
Look
I
at that
appreciate?
page. Look at that panel.
It's like, come on, man! Like he just nobody else is touching it like that.
I don't know about the top one, but
Nobody's
that
on that
second
level.
one is amazing.
It's
First
all
kind
amazing.
of negative art.
Just for context, I pulled out a book. It's Frank Miller, Batman Noir: The Dark Knight Strikes Again, and what it is, it's all the pages of that book, it uncolored, but lettered in black and white, kind of like Sin City,
But not in black and white in the sense that they just took, like they literally didn't color it. Like it's not like
just no.
Yeah, this is
no
the uncolored.
no color.
Yeah, Lynn Varley was not learning Photoshop on.
But
We
and I
didn't- we
mean,
didn't see that.
It's so like, and again, and I mean this is such a high compliment. It was the most distracted reading experience I've had in recent memory, because literally every 2 or 3 pages you were just seeing a masterclass in shape and negative space, to the point that it was, and again, this for me personally, it was so overwhelming that I would have to put the book down and just be like, I might have to leave the game, because
this makes you right, because I will never be able to achieve whatever it is that he did here. And at the time that this came out, it was ballyhooed. It was people like, what am I looking at?
Something slick to say.
In your opinions, both of you, how crucial is or are the lessons that you take from that specific book, the Batman Noir, how crucial are those to, say, someone starting out in comics, not starting out in art, but starting out in comics? Like, they've finished art school, they've kind of, started doing, like a mini comic or a web comic, webtoon, whatever. How crucial would you say that book is to learn from?
I'd wait to probably give that book to somebody maybe like until they're potentially a little older, because depending on what their point of reference is, they might be like, this is like, it's too raw almost.
Got it.
To your point, George,
Yeah.
Mr. George, is that this happens after you've made your splash. You don't even look at you don't show this to any. I don't show this to a young and upcoming artist.
So that's
I can barely look at it myself. And then just to show one more panel, just blow this up.
That's the one that I sent you. The negative space. Yep.
And it takes a minute to.
But like, come on, man! Like nobody.
That is Superman and Wonder Woman
falling to Earth.
Falling to Earth, yeah.
And obviously colored, you'd see like a red cape or whatever, and it looks like a sled. And this book is a revelation, and it's something to aspire to, at least artistically.
300%.
It's very interesting that you both said that you wait a little longer to show somebody that, like years even, and that you both are reacting as if you weren't the intended audience. Does that make sense? Like
so what? It's interesting that you say that.
George couldn't finish reading the book. Like he said, he had to put it down multiple times.
Well,
but I mean, he's talking about this. He's talking about this.
Yes.
He's not talking about the color 4-issue miniseries that came out.
No. I'm talking about.
I think everybody tried to read it and going, "What is happening? I don't understand what's happening." But we weren't ready for that, And I'm not going to say that's the best story because I'm still reading it. And
I kind of actually love the story at this point.
I need to reread. I'm getting there, right? I'm getting there. I'm probably going to love it. I mean, there are moments in that I remember that are heartbreaking. Like, is it when he says Shazam?
Oh yeah,
that starts again, right?
I can't.
Yeah, but I mean, and that's the testament to his, like, Frank Miller. I think the reason that he is such, and people say whatever they want to say, but I mean, to me, Mike Mignola gave an interview maybe somewhere after the pandemic where he was like, there are line artists and there are shape artists. And he identified himself as a shape artist, which I think is very fair. And I think what is so astonishing about Frank Miller's work, at least, outside of his storytelling innovations, what he's able to do, the page design, those things are magnificent. But, as a visual artist, he went to the top of the mountain twice. He did with Electra Lives Again, the peak of European style blue line, whatever line art comics. And then he did it with this Dark Knight, which is just a shape masterpiece. It's like Michael Jordan. He won the first 3 off of pure raw physicality and probably being the greatest athlete that we'll ever see. And he won that second 3 off of, being like, hey, check it out. I'm going to put a post-up game together. I'm going to get okay with people facilitating and distributing, and I am going to step back from being, a on-demand raw physical specimen. And that's why he backed it twice, but in 2 different ways. And Frank Miller, again, the apex is a line artist, the apex is a shape artist. And it's just not a lot. I don't think a lot of people can say that.
I like that. I love that distinction.
Yeah, that's a very interesting.
And to honor that, can you do close up again? Because I like to show you guys my layouts. This is a comic I'm going to be drawing after I finish a certain gig right now. So I can't really explain it, and I shouldn't even be showing this, but it doesn't matter. They're layouts. Now, like the layouts I draw are like this big. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But I'm just going to show you, like, in terms of this shape,
yeah,
being able to see, just the way things work shape-wise. And in this right here, I did this twice because I wanted to figure out, I have an overhead shot where there are people walking and then they start to turn into demons and then they start getting attacked. And then I thought, well, let me do it head on and see if that works. So I had a debate and a question about whether or not that would work, and then, coming with the 2-page splash.
Yeah, it's like a Tony Salmon's. Yeah. I mean,
the second one is like somebody J.H. Williams
layout. And then doing playing around with layouts here, and then finally a couple more pages. It's a 12-page comic, so here. Sorry, this, then that.
See,
And
you
then
know,
there's like some drawing here. So
I don't know if anyone's ever, noticed it about the way I write stories, but I always try to do cliffhangers on the odd number page. So you have to flip the page. And like, I just, for the first time, I think I noticed that in your layouts, Dean. Like, it seems like there's an intentional, and again, this is going back to storytelling, not art, which is, usually how me and Dean do these things. But the idea that, no, you want to get to the next page. You want to, I wouldn't call them cliffhangers, but that's what they are.
you got to turn that page. You got to get them to turn the page. There's one thing I regret in Anti-Mentor #1, and I don't want to give away what happens, but let's just say the Transformer scene in COVID Cop. Okay,
what do you regret about it?
Is that you didn't turn the page for it to see.
Got it.
It's next to you see it already while you're looking at the left-hand page. You already see the right hand.
Got it.
And that's where I messed up in terms of those little mini cliffhangers we talk about in comics, But yeah, going back to Frank Miller or the idea of next level, I think what we're kind of talking about is there are fans out there that are like, oh, he can't draw like he used to, and he shouldn't draw like he used to. He already drew that.
He's evolved.
He's evolved.
And it's glory. I mean, I think it was, what was it, that Ninja Turtles cover that he did? Like,
yeah.
I mean, and I think in these, I believe this is how I described it to you, but I mean, it's like, as close as you can get to creating like hieroglyphics in comic book format, it's just like these marks that are so simple, but they are so like in line with his persistent truth as a cartoonist. And again, the journey that he's made, like you can't say anything negative about it. Not if you really respect the craft.
And in terms of rendering, when he did the sequel to 300, it was like pages full of scallops. Everything looked like scallops to me. Like it was just one shape over another shape. And then that made a form, and like, I'm just sitting there going, and one of the things I've heard him talk about is like, yeah, just draw on the paper. You can always throw it out. And the amount of pages that he has tossed in the garbage, and I'm reading his memoir right now, and he talks about
I've started it. I think I'm like 30 pages in or so. I'm enjoying it.
Do you guys?
It's a slog at first, and because he's talking about Vermont,
right? It does.
It gets to the part where you want him to talk about the other stuff. Yeah. So.
Do you guys think that? I'm trying to phrase this as delicately as possible because I'm not trying to slag the man or to demean him or anything like that. But do you think that there's a point in Miller's career where he realized that he can sacrifice commerciability because he's Frank Miller? You know what I mean? Like I'm like, not that he says consciously, I'm Frank Miller, I can do whatever I want, but because he's got this new style, not new style, but his evolved style, like his like less is more kind of telling the story with as few lines as possible. Do you think that as readers we're preconditioned to maybe saying, no, we deserve more out of a $40 book but it's a Frank Miller book, so you should, be happy with what you're getting?
I'll answer. My answer is twofold. In that, I think he's always thought commercially. He's always thought, what is the biggest, best story, and how many people can I get to read this? And I think that's also true when you read his memoir. He thinks that way. On the flip side, he has come to earn, and I would almost say deserve, us to look at the way he draws now, to the point where the layouts I just showed you, if I could, my future could be me just doing my and I've said this before, my layouts, a little nuance, a little more finesse, and that was my comics. I wish that could be my comics.
I've told you I'll letter your layouts. Like I told you this, like in person. Like I love your layouts. To me are as good as the actual finished product.
Thank you.
I mean, and Dean, I think and again, I just, and I guess this is like an ancillary side of, or not ancillary, but like a adjacent part of more independent comics. But like, and I'm not sure if we've ever talked about this, but like if I had to put my chips down for like my favorite living cartoonist, it would be John Porcellino, who, if you look at his art, to somebody who doesn't necessarily have a point of reference, they're going to be like, okay, like, come on now. But, you know, if you sit and you read through the story and you understand what he is synthesizing between, you know, his hand letter, you know, these stories that he wrote with his imagery, it is some of the most potent, powerful, you know, stuff that I think you can ever hope to read.
And it's not a case of, oh, he's just a good writer, why is it a comic? It is, you see why it's a comic.
Yeah. Yeah.
The art is there for a reason.
100%. 100%.
So
I would
you're
always-
right. And then George, going back to you, I wish we had some art to show because I wish people could see some of the things you've
I
done.
can't get it to share it, you know.
Oh,
like,
it doesn't let you share a website?
Yeah, because I'm on a website. But yeah,
Okay.
I did try.
Well,
But I wish people could see what you do because I feel like you're really elegant and you're a very sensitive artist.
well, that's
In a lot of ways.
kind.
I think, you know, that's how we met, George, was through your collaboration with Seth Kushner, the late great Seth Kushner, our really good friend, a book called The Roman Nose, which I'll cop to being jealous. You guys got a Darwin Cook cover out of it. As you know, a year before he died, he is agreed to do a stray cover, and that never, unfortunately, panned out.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then,
I'm
yeah.
so sorry, Vito.
Well, you know,
Can I really not? Because, you know,
it's a bigger loss that Darwin's not with us than it is.
is there not a share screen? But what's this? There's a screen plus bottom.
Right.
Bottom,
right.
yeah, you can share your screen down there.
Oh, you can share your laptop, I think.
Oh, yeah. Okay, let me see, because I did
If
say
you can show some stuff, please. Because I want
just-
people who
I'll
are
tell you
watching
what,
the
so
YouTube.
when Seth and I were doing that comic, I was living in a house in Minneapolis with 5 other people in a bedroom that had no heat. It was absolutely awful.
Minneapolis? God, that's miserable.
It was a polar vortex. Oh, it was so bad. But so
Yeah.
you know, he had agreed to do this cover, and more specifically, he, you know, very kindly told me that my artwork was pulling his Euro heartstrings, which is probably the nicest thing anybody will ever say to me.
It's true.
but
I was looking at the
well,
pages earlier,
yeah,
and I was just
very
like,
kind. But so when
It's
he
very,
sent
it's
us,
very, to me, your artwork is kind of like almost heavy metal-esque, you know, like neo heavy metal, you know, and it has elements of romance, it has elements of fantasy, you know, like it's almost dream state sometimes the way
there's
it looks.
okay, I think it will let me do this.
You want to pop his screen,
yeah,
Vito?
Yeah, let's see. All right, so share screen and see 2 monitors. Well, we'll see what it does. Okay. You know what? Hold on. It might be easier if let me download this and put it in Vito. Maybe you can just pull it up into your part of the, where is it? Okay. So basically what happened is Darwin sent us 2 sketch ideas for the cover, and it was early in the morning, and I did like a standing double backflip and screamed, and I woke up all my roommates and they weren't especially happy, and I can appreciate that. But yeah, let me see. Okay, Dean, or Vito, I'm gonna send you the image file.
yeah, and you know the thing that I've said it on the show before. One of my favorite cartoonists is Rich Tommaso.
Sure,
And
he's great.
There's a deceptive simplicity to his work. It's such a very fine line. It's you know, like, it's gorgeous to look at, and I get the same like feeling when I look at your work. Like, there's a certain kind of, I don't want to, again, simplicity is not the right word, but because I know the work that goes into it, but there's a certain kind of like delicate and sensitivity to it that it just draws you in. It's like, it's not, I think Darwin's right when he says it, like, it's got a European kind of French, Italian type of feel to it, which, you know, also, you know, does wonders for me.
Did it go?
Yep. Give me one
Yeah.
second.
Look at that.
Okay, so these were
It's there. No, it's there.
the sketches that he sent us, which, you know, they're both just delightful. And we ended up going with this idea on the right, the Roman nose. He's in between.
And the other noses are missing from the statues, which is true for most statues. And it's so good.
Right. It just was like, it was such a happy moment. And then I can try to pull up the final as well. And I think I can pull some of my artwork into.
See your artwork.
It doesn't let you show a website.
I would have to download all the images, and I think that's just
okay. All right, that wouldn't be the best. I mean the European aesthetic. The work that I do nowadays. Most all of the comics that I do, I'm very fortunate to be able to work as a cartoonist in healthcare, to kind of use my abilities in conjunction with medical professionals to hopefully help improve the American healthcare system. And the simplicity and more, I guess, kind of accessible nature of European artwork, or what is the European aesthetic. I find it serves the work that I do with my boss and my collaborators nicely. Okay, let's.
You might be working too hard trying to get the healthcare system fixed.
Well, there are there are things. Okay, here goes the final thing. Let's see if I can. Yeah, and it was so cool that he gave us two, and again they're not like wildly different versions, but
one could have been the back cover, but you don't want to put.
Well, he gave us two. Okay, let's see here. Come on. Why won't this?
He did an incredible cover for the Fox. Oh my
God, that one of him. Pete, what was it? He's kind of
all
like
the foxes are driving through the woods and leaves.
Yeah.
And the fall leaves, unbelievable.
Also,
George, I want you to talk about. I mean, we really haven't covered a lot of the work you've done in comics, which is sporadic, I guess, in some ways. But you also would illustrate. I don't know if it was poetry. I forget what it was. Oh yeah.
I did, and you were very nice to give me a quote. So we ended up going with this one on the left, but he gave us a more kind of daytime palette and the nighttime palette. And that was awesome that he did that. We were so fortunate, and it's so unfortunate that he is
no longer with us. Yeah, he's a loss, man.
Not here anymore. But no, Dean and you were very kind when I self-published that collection of poetry comics. You gave me a very, very nice quote for the cover. These days, again, most all of what I do, I've been very, very, very lucky to work, in various capacities to create what are essentially, or co-create. I'm not the only one doing the work. These comic strips that, again, are about kind of challenges within the healthcare system, and they are used as teaching modules within universities, and then they've been published as my boss wrote a textbook that the illustrations were in for one, and then we've been published by a few different medical journals.
Can I ask where that comes from? Like this desire to serve, to help, because you were doing comics in collaboration. You're doing comics. You wanted to do mainstream comics. You dabbled there. You dabbled here. You did a creative, artistic comics, and now you are using your comics to better serve humanity. Why?
Why? It's a couple of things. I really, in the years that I was, I'd say, very invested in building myself creatively or building my work creatively, I experienced a real, I guess, an internal challenge with regards to, I felt as though the amount of time and effort that I was putting into this thing that, again, that I wanted and that brought me a lot of happiness, I felt self-conscious about what I saw as a selfishness about that. It's something that for me personally, it's, it's like to get to the point where you are making your living as a creative person and you're making all of your living as a creative person, you have some years of the other parts of your life are maybe not as full or given as much attention. And that is something that I wanted to try to do a better job of. And I do get a lot of fulfillment in using a skill set that, again, I have really taken a lot of care to cultivate and develop, to hopefully make a difference. I was in the not-for-profit sector in one capacity or another for 9 years. I was teaching various stripes of creativity, and it is the right choice for me personally to use my creative skills in that way. And I do still, I've had a business drawing portraits of people's pets and houses and whatever, on commission for many years. And I do some work for TV, commercials, storyboarding. So I do other things, and at some point, will I continue to do that poetry, comic work, and self-publish it? I expect so, but for the time being, I feel really fortunate and really thankful that I'm able to do it in the way that I am, and it shows up very nicely in my life. So that.
Do you see yourself possibly collaborating in the future again with someone if it's the right project?
Oh yeah, of course. No, I mean, I'd love to. I really, and I say this to everybody, like, it is not lost upon me the extraordinary good fortune that I've had with regards to my artistic collaborators, starting with Seth, just an incredibly high bar, but, what a kind person, what a supportive person. Dan Goldman and I had a project that we, tried probably for a year or so to send through, and it just didn't go. But again, like what a trusting person, what, considerate, paid me out of his pocket to draw that work. I had a very, I did a short little 3-page something for Alex DeCampi, and we had talked about doing something larger, and it just, I think she has much more gifted artists on her dance card than me, but it was, the piece that we did, I do remember when she put it up on Instagram or Facebook or somewhere, like Brian K. Vaughan popped in and was like, "This is gorgeous," or like, "This is wonderful." And like,
that's awesome.
That's awesome. How nice. And then, Joe, my the person I've been doing this medical work with for all these 8 years now, when I started doing it, I was just the artist, and he has shown me some real kindness and trust and allowing me to start to do some of the writing and get credited for that writing. And that's so nice. I really, again, I'm so lucky and fortunate in that part of my life. And I am always open to, whenever it comes in the journey, if there's someone who really wants to have a magnificent collaboration in which, we're showing up with a lot of trust and we've got an idea that we're both jazzed about, of course. Yeah. So I comics, certainly some parts of my life were like, it was like, oh boy, like this is rough, but, has brought some real joy and just nice things to my life as well. And I'm very thankful for that.
I have 2 more things I want to bring up, and then I have some other topics, if that's okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Vito, you might have some. Okay, yeah, we got like 15. So
what I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to share a page from Pay the Devil while you're talking.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I kind of went off the
rails. Oh, no, not at all.
No, I keep wondering if you're a fun date.
Well, sometimes.
Jesus, Dean.
He's bearing his soul here, and I'm like, real quick, I hesitate to bring this up because I kept wondering why. Why were you doing this? and you might have the answer, and you probably told me at the time. Tell me about your relationship with Star Wars.
Yeah, that project.
Talk about the project, like what it was.
About the project. Seth and I were working on the Roman nose at the time, and he got sick, and it was something that we were continue to do that work, and it there was heaviness about the specifics of our situation, even though we were going to keep doing it. And I Star Wars had been a very formative part of my childhood experience, or in that, like, my dad really tried to curate that for us, that viewing experience. And it brought me like so much joy. And, those movies were about to start to come out. And I was like, well, like, I can put a part of my day aside to like just have this joyful interaction with this thing that, when I was a kid, I really loved. And I was really just doing it for my own amusement. And then it became a thing, and that was awesome. And it really,
but also tell people what it was, because
sure, I apologize.
You drawing Star Wars, but like, what was it again specifically?
Wasn't it hashtag Darth Days?
Called hashtag Darth Days, a play on the words dark days. But essentially what I did is every day for a year, I took a scene from those first 3 movies and I turned it into a comic panel. And I was just doing it for my enjoyment. And then it became a thing on the internet. There were all these articles written and people liked it, and it was very flattering. And it was also really nice because Seth really liked it. What a big Star Wars fan.
And it's funny because I kept thinking, like, I understand being a fan. I understand revisiting and trying to isolate a moment and draw it. But I think the thing that threw me off was, and maybe this was part of your process, which is what I'm trying to get to ultimately, is that you were basically drawing photographs. And tell me, like, 100%. And what did that do for you as a creator, or how did that develop your art?
Yeah, I think that was something where, it really just was I feel like maybe you guys had talked about this on a previous podcast, the 10,000 hours thing. It was, in some levels, like, and I feel like that's a bad way to say it for people who felt some kind of way, but it kind of was. It was an exercise. It was like, okay, I'm developing a facility. I'm hopefully trying to make some creative choices, or some choices that might be different than, what was made on the screen. And so it was an opportunity to develop and to play and, to do something that was, I guess, that was going to hopefully help me build or get better by putting in the man hours. And
in putting those man hours, you do commissions of people's dogs, pets, cats, landscapes, houses, and stuff. And I think maybe what that is, that filtered into that part of your oeuvre, let's call it.
Did the Darth Days come before your collaboration with Seth, or like as a result?
It was happening at the same, or we had done the first issue of the Roman nose. We put it together, and then we had started to work on the second issue, and I was doing the Star Wars thing at the same time. They were kind of running parallel to each other, I guess. But it also was something that, and it's funny, before he passed away, I got a critique at, I think, New York Comic Con from John Paul Leon, whose work is just, again, unbelievable. And I went up to show him my work, the comic that I was doing with Dan Goldman, that, again, more European, kind of clean, but also the Star Wars stuff. And I went up to him and I was like, you're one of my biggest influences. And he was looking through my work and he was just like, really? And so, again, when he gave me the critique, he had only nice things to say. He really was so supportive. I just don't think that he saw at all what I was telling him that, you know, that he was a big influence of mine, and it was kind of funny. But he was
funny. Everyone who says that Alex Toth is an influence, including me,
sure.
I don't see it in my work. I don't see it in most people's work, unless you're doing Alex Toth.
I feel like the way that you use silhouettes sometimes, or like, you know, some of your staging, I see it.
Maybe.
Kind of
I wish.
sort of.
I wish.
Do people
I don't
ever
study
tell
him
you-
enough to really ape or mirror or even pick up what he's laying down half the time, because he's such a unique individual. You know.
Do people ever tell you that they see Harvey Kurtzman in your work?
No.
Really?
No.
Okay.
And I think I know what you mean, even though I have not studied him, but he's the kind of guy, when I saw Harvey Kurtzman's work early on, I was like, what? And then it became like, oh my God. What?
Yeah.
No, I was instantly on his team.
Oh, really?
It's so funny. I was so slow to come on to the Kirby team, but Kurtzman, I was immediately drawn. Like, absolutely.
Interesting. Before we veer into some quick topics,
Sure.
I have to bring up briefly your facility for music and the fact that you did a COVID cop. Like,
that's
instrumental
right.
song, which was
I
amazing.
forgot about that.
It was awesome. Very kind of John Carpenter-esque, whatever, kind of, you know. But you're one of those guys, when you play guitar, it's like, I can't watch your face. Because he's just the kind who's making love to the music type of thing. And like, it's so, I can't. It's like, I you know, you busted in someone's room by accident and they're jerking off kind of thing. Like,
and it's funny you say that, because I do try to, you know, there's a guitar player named Robert Fripp who I think the world.
Oh yeah, Fripp.
He's amazing.
Yeah, he's astonishing. And he has this very, people call his guitar playing cold. I disagree. But he is someone who, you know, his facial expression is kind of unchanged, you know, as he plays. Like, there's just not a lot going there. So you know, for men, and I think maybe I've kind of eased up as I've grown older, but it is something that for a long time I would consciously try to, like, no emotion. Like, it's just, you know, it's all in my hands type thing. But
you don't do like John Mayer faces though, right?
Yes.
Boy, I really hope not. But, you know, maybe they've creeped out in the past, and I'm just not willing to.
I love it.
I got to say, like, I've been in bands, and most dudes are just one emotion, like one face, like, you know,
sure.
So I mean, you know, you're playing a certain type of music, you're probably not going to like emote as much. So I don't think you have to worry anything about it. I think it just shows your love for what you're doing.
Of
course.
You
know, I mean, and it's kind of, you try to, you know, I think as you grow older, you try to have a more, you know, when I was younger, I just try to burn as many notes as I could as quickly as I could. And that can be great. But, like, you know, I think at this point in my life, I'm probably more interested in, like, you know, a Derek Trucks, or, you know, when Prince is a little more choosy with his note selection. You know, Jeff Beck also, when he's more choosy with his note selection. So you try to, you know, have a little more emotion, or kind of, it is like almost a whole body thing. I don't know how to describe it.
A groove is a groove, man.
A groove is a groove. There you go.
That's all it is.
Vito, can I throw out a bunch of little things?
Yeah.
And then we'll do Diamond, or do you want to do Diamond, or talk about?
No. I'll do Diamond really quick. It's just super quick. The lawsuit that the publishers consortium had put together to receive or stop Diamond from selling their stock and liquidating it and paying their debtors with the money from that has been decided in the favor of the consortium. So expect, if you follow me, expect me to start putting up copies of Stray online, because I will be getting some back when Action Lab gets their stock back. It
affected a lot of publishers, like a lot of publishers, a lot of small press publishers.
I spoke to Brian Seaton very briefly today in text, and he said we're not there yet, but it's a step in the right direction.
I briefly wanted to mention a few things that I saw last week. One of them was, and I mentioned it, I think last episode, that I was going to go see Death of a Salesman.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
Arthur Miller's Death of a Salesman, and I saw it, and I'd only read the play once, but in college studying it, and I wrote about it in my Substack. One of the things that the dramatic structure teacher asked us, his name is Joe Stockdale, was what did Willy Loman want? Willy Loman is the lead character, and we all read the play. I was like, I don't know, and he said it's right there in the play. Like every good play, every good piece of text will say what the characters desire that's in there. Sometimes it's buried, and what Willy Loman wanted was to be well liked. Mm-hmm. And I always thought, what an interesting term, because living now in a modern world of likes, what is a well liked? To be well liked, And the play is absolutely about that. It's about kind of not. It's about dreaming bigger than your ability, okay, and projecting that on your children. And there was a line that I almost just evaporated. And they had to earn this, the third act or the third part of the story, the ending. Everything culminates. And one of the sons has been being elevated by Willy Loman this whole time to be this football star. And he just didn't have it or didn't want to do it. And he basically says, Dad, I'm $1 an hour. I'm a $1 an hour guy. Stop making me more than that. Kind of a thing. And it just killed me, the concept of just understanding that you are $1 an hour. Whatever that is in today's terms, it doesn't matter.
Right.
But that you're not bigger than that, and you're never going to be bigger than that. And to me, the period on that sentence is, in my versions, and that's okay. But in the play, it wasn't okay.
That's Nathan Lane playing Willy Loman, right?
Willy Loman. And I advise that no one should see this play ever.
Well,
that's how heartbreaking it is.
I've said it on the show, like that is my dream role. I would love to do a stage version of me acting as Willy Loman. I think you even mentioned I should be Happy instead. But I was like, nah. I think I got
all the characters you get Willy Loman, you get the wife, you get Biff. Happy is actually a difficult character to understand, and the more I was watching him, I was like, oh, I totally get what he's doing.
Yeah.
He is trying to be we're a great family, aren't we? We're great. He's happy, and he's also always talking about his weight, because he's like, even though he was so buff in the play, like he's working so hard to be this perfect specimen, and that doesn't matter. It's an incredible play. My favorite play of all time is Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, but this is definitely right there.
That's possibly my favorite.
And then I had a weird 3 nights in a row, basically, with Jen, where we watched 3 movies done by the same writer-director, 3 different movies. And I think he's only done 3 movies, basically. Are you familiar with a movie called The Triangle of Sadness?
Oh, man. Yeah.
No.
You saw it? George?
Yeah. And I loved it, but I can appreciate how probably certain sections of a movie-going audience might be a hard watch for them.
It's incredible.
I thought it was great. I absolutely loved it.
It's great, and it's a great ending that makes you ask some questions.
Oh yeah.
So he's done 3 movies, and I watched him through it. And Vito, I implore you to watch these. And George, you as well. We haven't. See Triangle of Sadness.
Right.
See The Square. It's unbelievable. The Square. Okay, and his name is Ruben Östlund. Okay, Ostlund.
Okay,
Ruben Östlund. And then the other movie is called Force Majeure. And they're incredible.
That's appropriate for you.
I was about to say,
great. I know, right? Fate Majeure, right?
It's one of Dean's characters. That's why.
Right.
That's the inside
But
joke.
Force Majeure, the Square, and Triangle of Sadness, brilliant, beginning to end. He'll be your favorite new filmmaker. Do yourself a favor, okay? So I wanted to bring him up, and then real quick, this was something I just learned today, and I think George would be excited by this. I don't know. I'm excited. I haven't heard it yet, but apparently D. Antwoord has a new album out called Zama Zama.
I didn't know they were.
He used to play
When was the
DINO.
last time they had an album come out?
A while
I was about to
ago.
say, yeah.
So they have a new album called Zama Zama, Z-A-M-A, twice. And I
For those watching and listening, I learned of my love for St. Vincent through Dean.
Oh, a great guitar player.
And I've learned of my ambivalence to Deontwood through Dean from him in the studio. Like I was just like, okay.
I love D. Antwoord. I love D. Antwoord. And then I wanted to give a shout out to Ruby, who was turning 18 the last time. She turned 18. I got to talk to her for a little while. And then finally, little shout outs. Chessface got nominated for a Ringo for Best Short Story. Thank you very much. So anybody who's a pro or have ever made comics in any capacity, you have the right to vote. So please go vote and throw me a little love for Chessface for Best Short Story at the Ringo Awards.
And if I can throw another name at everyone that's voting,
yes.
My buddy Colm Griffin is nominated for Best Cover Artist again. He did, what was it for? He actually did the Stray cover for issue number 2, where Stray is the issue number 3 that we just started fulfilling. It's the wrestling cover of Stray.
Oh, awesome.
But he's not nominated for Stray, but he is. It's very funny. When I met him at Baltimore Comic-Con 2 years ago, he came up to the table at the exact same moment as my sister, my cousin, and his wife. So he's unofficially my cousin now because
right.
Family. So vote for my cousin Colm Griffin for Best Cover Artist, and vote for Dean for what was it? Best one shot?
Best short story. Best short story. And then I also want to, by the time this comes out, I think there'll be one more day to pre-order Real Life Comics, only in New York, the graphic novel anthology that Vito and I are in, featuring 52 stories by 69 creators, including Jack Kirby's Street Code, his only memoir comic. And that would be August 10th is the final order cutoff to let your comic shop know that you want this book, which comes out September 9th. So there you go.
I'm really looking forward to that. I for some reason I thought it was coming a little bit sooner, and I had been like checking my mail, and then I saw the email the other day, and I was like, okay, great.
Yeah, it should be coming out sooner. What?
I said, George, if we do a second one.
Hey man, I'd be delighted. Yeah.
I would love to work with you on something.
Yeah,
I have an idea too, like a Staten Island story, but we'll see. It might.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking. My buddy and I went and saw the new Spider-Man movie the other night, and there's a
no spoilers. No
joke about. Oh, okay, all right.
Yes, there's a part about Staten Island. I've heard.
Yeah.
I have a couple of quick hits as well. X-Men '97 on Disney Plus still manages to nail it. Hit it out of the park. They're doing. It's so weird how they're doing like Morrison and Claremont and Scott Lobdell and Fabian, like stories that don't happen at the same time, but they're all happening at the same time. It's so good.
Now, did you watch the and I banged through it like in a day or so, but the Werner Herzog influenced Joker Batman?
Not yet. The Cape Crusader on Amazon. I haven't watched it.
I really enjoyed it.
Everybody's saying that this season.
Did Brubaker write some of those?
Yes.
Oh,
even the first season. I'm not sure about the second
season. I think in the second season, I know J.M. DeMatteis and Greg Rucka wrote.
Okay.
But yeah, I understand that that's a polarizing show for some people. The first season I thought was hit or miss. This second season, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So
speaking of Amazon, I also watched Masters of the Universe.
Oh.
I did not expect to like this movie as much as I did, and not only did I like it, I enjoyed it. It didn't take itself too seriously. It wasn't the 80s Dolph Lundgren, Frank Langella movie either. It's got a nice, like, fun, I wouldn't say anti-macho message, but like if you watch it, you'll understand what I'm saying. Like it's definitely worth watching. My buddy Dan Exclaims, who did a very nice review of the first Stray volume, is having problems here on YouTube where they are accusing him of being an AI generated account, and he's not. And when he tries to kind of take it up, the complaint chain, he just gets an AI response. So it's not helping. So anybody watching, if you're a lawyer or if you have any experience with YouTube and doing any of this stuff and are able to help Dan Exclaims, it's all at Dan Exclaims, possibly an exclamation point at the end on the Twitter handle, but I think it's just Dan Exclaims here on YouTube. If you can help him out, I know he would appreciate it. I definitely would. Dan is a fantastic guy. He does really great reviews. Anytime he does a review of a book, I almost always, like, he made me buy Transformers. I had no interest in buying Transformers. I bought Transformers.
But is that the Daniel Warren Johnson?
Yeah, it's amazing. And like, if not for seeing his review, I would not have been kind of like, I had no interest in it until
he is a generational talent, though. I mean, it's like he Chris Somney and James Herron, I feel like, are just, I mean, of like people working in like blue chip comics, you know, a more mainstream. And I mean, and they're, I think Somney and Daniel Warren Johnson are, well, no, I'm sorry, Daniel Warren Johnson and James Herron are kind of outside of the traditional like fold or whatever you want to call it, but their work is brilliant. I really like
Somney is a combo of Darwin Cook and Alex Toth.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, you want to talk about, and we have talked about that. I mean, he is just so good. I love his
Finally, I am going to, for the first time anywhere, this is Monday, August, whatever it is, episode 82. I said 83 earlier. This is actually episode 82. Episode 82, I am going to reveal for the first time anywhere the Pay the Devil cover by Steve Walker.
Oh,
our graphic novel.
And he's the art league guy, right?
Yeah.
Nice. Super nice.
Yeah, there's your cover. I cannot wait. And Dean, I have to thank Dean publicly because I had sent it to Dean and he's like, you should make it a little more redder or something and like make the red pop. And so Dean, thank you very much for your help on that.
Of course.
There you go. This is going to be debuting at Baltimore Comic-Con this year. Nice. We can't wait. I showed a page earlier while George was talking, just to kind of wet the whistle for this announcement. So yeah, we'll have it for sale at, I almost said San Diego, Baltimore Comic-Con.
Baltimore Comic-Con looks great. And that's 40 pages, right?
That is actually 50. It'll come out to be about 60 pages.
Oh, wow.
It's a 54 story, but, with end papers and stuff like that.
Right. You got to go to the printer soon, man.
Yeah, I know.
Hurry up.
Before the end of the month.
I'm going to be at Plastic City Comic-Con at the end of this month, I believe, and then Dragon Con at the beginning of next month. My first time going to be at Dragon, 40th anniversary. All I hear about Dragon Con is that it's debaucherous. It's just total. I
feel like you have to seek that out. I mean,
you would think, right? I mean, there has to be. That's what it is. They're not making you do things. They're not dosing you and dragging your body into a
eyes wide shut party.
Eyes wide shut party.
And I've got, for the people who are curious, I just finished this today, but an example of my work. One of the commissions that I did, this couple that just bought their first house, it looks like it's trying to pop up.
It's coming up, I think, right?
It's coming up here. Okay. Well, yeah, anyway. So, to give people, this is the thing that's just handiest on my desktop. For some reason, it wasn't going to the website, but for people who are curious, this is an example of.
And this is a new couple that just bought a home?
They just bought a home, yeah, and this is.
And they've been around. How long have they been married? You think? That
is a good question. The mother purchased this for them as the housewarming gift.
So all I can think about when I look at that is the amount of sex that's going to happen.
Somebody's going to make a baby in there.
They're going to make a baby. Someone about to get.
It's possible, help the birth rate out. Right? Apparently, it's struggling.
I think that is
in that space right there.
It's such a sweet idea to commemorate the first purchase of a home.
Yeah,
like getting a piece of artwork.
there was a realtor who I worked for a number of years who, I mean, it was great. You know, whenever she sold a house, she would have me draw it for. I mean, 2 copies would be made, one for the people who were moving out and one for the people who were moving in.
Oh, that's nice too.
Yeah, she was really wonderful. It was super nice.
I like that.
Yeah.
So
I
George,
can imagine like drawing that, like just it's like Zen. It's like a Zen thing to do, you know.
It's
So
a little meditative aspect, sure.
I know you're very private, and I do want people to be able to reach out to you if they want to commission artwork of their dog. If they want to
my website is live, or it should be live. Let me.
I was on it earlier, so it should be.
Okay. Yeah, just georgefolz.com. And yeah, my email's on there. And I don't do as many commissions as I used to back in the day. But you know, I don't usually say no if people ask me, and I do enjoy doing them. And yeah, and anybody, you know, who might have any interest in conversation or collaboration, I'd be delighted to chat. Yeah.
Like I said, if there's another only in New York, I'm definitely going to ask you to do my story.
I'd be delighted to. That would be
I would
great.
love to work with you at least once, you know?
Yeah, we did, because what was it, in Seth's, in his Schmuck book, I did that was the first time we worked together. I did a 3-page piece for him, and I don't think it ever got published, but, you know, Dave Kelly, who did the Tales of the Night Watchman for all those years, I did like 12 pages for him, but I haven't talked to Dave in a long time. I don't think he's publishing that book anymore. But yeah, the work was done, and it was a New York set story, so it was fun to draw whatever parts of Brooklyn those characters were living in. Yeah, it was good.
Oh man. Well, thank you so much. Was there anything you wanted to talk about briefly? Are you good? Any questions?
Yeah, no, I think, you know, you guys had asked, but I think you would ask your guests this, but I don't remember if you gave your answers. You were talking about like the Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
That changes every week, man.
Okay, well But
what's yours?
The round of this week. What do you all have?
I mean, if I'm doing mine for this week, I would still have Wade up there. I would have.
Okay. You know, maybe. Okay. I remember you saying Mark Wade. Yeah.
Mark Wade will always be. He's the George Washington on my Mount Rushmore. My Mount Sinai, I should say. So I guess he's Moses. So Wade, Perez, probably. I would say Wolfman this week, just because of that collaboration, and then Jaime Hernandez.
Yeah.
Like always.
This week is probably the same as almost every other week. It's probably Jack Kirby, Frank Miller, Howard Chaykin, and like CC Beck.
Oh, okay. I can't, because I feel like, and again, I might just be misremembering. I thought you would ask the people, and Vito, I guess I'm remembering yours. Dean, maybe I'm just not remembering yours, but
I was throw up the artists that are also cartoonists, and like Eisner should be up there, and maybe Ditko, and
I mean, I would. You know, I'd be remiss to not mention Greg Rucka or even Jeff Johns and Roy Thomas are very big influences on me. But for this week, I think Marvin George take that spot.
I mean, Brian K. Vaughan, Ed Brubaker.
Yeah.
You know, like of course Wade. Like he's up for Ringo. So
for everything that he's done this year, the Batman.
No, Wade for the year. It's a window.
Oh, so big writer.
Yeah,
all encompassing.
Right. What about you, George?
John Porcellino has to be on there. I think Hergé is one of the slots. And then
Mobius. Go ahead, say Mobius. Go ahead.
Well, that's who's coming next. And then for the 4th slot, oh man,
the 4th slot's always the toughest.
How about this? I'm gonna throw a curveball at you because I don't think this is true at all. but the Marvel era of Richard Corbin.
Hey man, but I'll say, I mean but in all seriousness, that I was just telling my buddy, and I think you might have met him, Brett, about the Punisher, the end story that Richard Corbin.
Yeah,
That's
we talked about it a couple weeks ago, I think.
You want to talk about the greatest last page ever drawn in a superhero? Well, that's, I mean, maybe in a horror. Unbelievable. I mean, it's just he, you know, his work. He's one of very few cartoonists whose work like has made me uncomfortable because it's just got that kind of like doughy, but it's realistic, and I don't know. In any case, his that Punisher book is unbelievable. But my fourth slot, you know, and I don't think it shows in my work as much as it did as a younger person, but Bruce Timm was so big to young me. Like I would not have picked up drawing if it was not for him. So I do think he would probably.
Who was the fourth one you just said? I missed it.
Bruce Timm, I think.
Oh, Bruce Timm
would be my fourth spot.
I'm going to suggest that you look up, if you haven't already, an artist. He's my favorite European artist. Probably is Baru. Do you know Baru?
Oh yeah. He actually, I can see the influence that he's.
But I see it kind of like that watercolor, kind of undulating, smooth.
He's got to be using a blue, and I haven't looked at his work in a little while, but it looks like that blue line coloring method, you know, where they acetate on top of. And
there's Liberatory, you know, Ranks of Rocks from back in the day, like where he was using color markers and all those pages. Fold it up and turn it into brown leaves.
Yeah,
you know, like
haven't aged the best, but I was actually talking with one of my buddies from art school about that. His colors, I'd say, have been very influential on my approach. Or I really, he's awesome. There's so many good. Four is so hard. I couldn't. And Frank Miller might take that Bruce Timm slot, but I just feel like again, you know, because Bruce Timm was so And you know, there's no Bruce Timm without Jack anyway. But you know,
no, I agree.
Before we go, I want to say that Michelle, my wife, suggested a drinking game for anybody watching at home, and the drinking game was basically if anytime we took a bite of something, which we never do. Funny enough, like there are times where she has brought in food for me, and you'll see me duck like this.
Yeah.
And I'm eating because I'm trying to, like, you know, not have it go cold or whatever. But
that's
tonight,
all I did for the first hour was eat.
But I was like, oh, the other thing we could do is anytime I touch my nose or touch my head, I'm always touching my face. I have OCD or whatever.
Adjust glasses.
I'm sure somebody is going to get drunk. Big time. George, thank you very much for joining us.
This was such a nice part of my week.
Oh, that's very nice of you to say.
Yeah, I love, like Dean, I'm sure I've told you, you know, it's just, you open up YouTube sometimes and it's not like the greatest, you know, selection of news items or videos. When I see this on, you know, Monday or whatever, I'm like, ooh, I've got like an oasis to look forward to.
Thanks, man. And I appreciate every time you text me and tell me what you're thinking or feeling or showing me something.
I'm always jealous of that text thread because, like, when Dean and I send stuff to each other, it's like we're trying to kill each other.
It is.
Well, we can have a new Triforce group chat.
Triangle of happiness. Triangle of happiness.
Yeah, triangle sadness inverted into something positive. There you go. That one.
Thank you, everybody. If you want to support the show, we have T-shirts for sale down underneath the description. We also have a button for you to just donate if you don't want to wear our shirt. It's for you. Dean and I will be making the rounds at Baltimore Comic-Con in September, but Dean will be appearing at a couple of shows beforehand. We'll have information about that down below. And that's it. That's episode 82 in the books. Next week, episode 83, I believe we have 2 guests. So that'll be a lot of fun. And we can't wait to see you there. We hope that you will join us then. Good night, Dean. Good night, George. Good night, Mom and Dad.
Thanks
guys.
Thank you, guys.
Mwah.
All right. Be well.